We have another guest coming up.
Yes,
An
we do.
extremely funny local comedian, Rita. We've all done open mics with her. We've all done. Well, I haven't done a show with her yet, but I think both of you have done an actual show with her.
Oh, yes.
She is amazingly funny.
We're going to play a video.
Oh, did you have that?
Yep.
Okay.
We're going to play this really quick, and then we'll bring Gini Sikes on.
No, Ginny Sikes.
Oh, excuse
me. Ginny. That's easier.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, hi guys. It is so good to talk to someone because I'm sick of being ignored. Okay, see, right before quarantine, I was going to take my aunt to Costco and she wouldn't pick up the phone. I texted her, nothing. I went over there and she was dead, which was such a relief. I thought she ghosted me. Well, I went to Costco anyway because I still have a life. And I was there battling for essentials, toilet paper, and the 6-pound tub of Nutella. And I whip around and see mounted on the wall, coffins. And there's even a pink coffin in the exact shade of my dead aunt's bathroom where I found her. She would love that. Costco sells coffins in bulk. I just don't think I need 6 caskets. But I don't know when I'll get back here again. The parking sucks. Do I know anybody else who... This could be the only time that somebody is going to buy a coffin on impulse. You know, you're in the checkout line, you got your water, your paper towels, and then you see them and you're like, oh, hey, actually, that might save us time later. So I'm about to yell out, hey, anybody want to go in on a 6-pack of caskets? Ooh, that is tacky. So instead I call my Uncle Joe. Hey, Uncle Joe, it's me. I'm at Costco. No, there's no wipes. No, they have nothing. I wanted to check on you. How's your prostate cancer? What stage are you in? Well, that's not going to help. But when the Lord closes the door, sometimes he opens a window to Amazon. Turns out I can order a coffin online. And as a Prime member, I can get overnight delivery. If you're not home, I guess, what, they just leave it in your yard? But that's not the weird thing about Amazon. There are reviews. Why would you trust a review by someone who clearly never used the product? But Amazon markets death just like anything else on the site. They actually say things like, 20% off mother's casket if you order now. Order now? Well, that's pressure. You know, like you're going to speed things up for the discount? How would that play out? Sorry, Mom, but you always loved a bargain. It's pillow time. Oh, honey, I think she's gone. Order now. Thank you for listening, and hey, check out my coffin review at Amazon.com. I'm Gini Sikes.
All right. Want to show one more thing really quick. She also wrote a book. So we're going to put that up real quick. A little thing right there.
Oh,
all right.
Wait. It went away really quick. Yeah,
okay,
8-Ball Chicks by Ginny Sikes. A year in the violent world of girl gangs. Yes. So she knows a bit. So we're hearing the death motif.
All right, let's bring her in. There we go.
Hey, Ginny.
Hey, my friends.
Welcome.
Hey, Dana.
Hey there, Ginny Sikes.
I have to just tell you, listening to Ron, I was going, oh, wow, this is really great to follow a political comedian who takes on the Proud Boys with a comic who rants about unicorns. However, I have to say, 10 years ago, I went undercover and for Essence magazine to the Council of Conservative Citizens. And they're the group that inspired Dylan Roof to shoot up that church in South Carolina. So I was like, okay, well, I'm a comic who goes undercover too.
Right.
And now it makes you wish, hey, I should have gone back in time and taken some of them out. I don't know.
I will say it's interesting. Like back then, this was like 10 years ago, they were kind of trying to present themselves as the friendlier, friendlier and gentler KKK. And I'm not even being facetious. They had
Wow.
because the KKK, like Antifa, is not a group. It's anybody can call themselves the KKK. We could, there's no national KKK. So
They all get their robes at a costume store or something?
believe me, I've actually gone to the stores where they sell them and met the guy who the movie John Burden is about. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But anyway, what my only point is back then they were trying to make it more palatable. And what's sad is they didn't have to. They didn't have to make it palatable because right now everybody just, will say the most vicious thing or will not denounce them on a presidential debate. So
Right.
Yeah.
obviously I was watching you guys.
Well, we like that you're watching. And of course, we love all the people watching at home. Hey, I love that coffin bit, by the way. I like, I'm like, yep, it's Costco. He's selling coffins. And yep, of course, there's probably a six-pack there. You're right.
What's interesting about comedy is it comes out of truth. And somebody had told me they sold coffins at Costco, and then we looked it up online, and Amazon had started finding the reviews. So that's all that.
Wow.
It's like it's just this perfect special for a Jonestown thing, right?
So what inspired you to do stand-up comedy?
Well, I've only been doing it not quite 2 years, and but prior to that. Many years ago in the 80s, when New York had a vibrant stand-up scene, I was the editor of a women's magazine, and I gave this woman her first assignment. Her name was Betsy Bournes, and she wrote the book, what was it called? It was a big book about stand-up comedy, Stand Up America or something, which looked at like all the guys that were big then. And I wound up working on a show at MTV and also at Comedy Central in its early days, where it was a show for Dennis Leary, who was a stand-up back then.
Right.
And everybody who was on staff there, I wasn't a writer, I was a segment producer, and everybody on staff there wound up going on to, it was like Josh Weinstein and Bill Oakley, who went on to The Simpsons, Chris Kelly, who went to Politically Incorrect, and Bill Maher. Bill Schiff, who went to David Letterman. It was a horrible show, but not through the fault of anybody who was on staff. And I used to hang out with these guys, and they used to say, you should submit to SNL or, In Living Color. But I'm a slow writer. And I also was told that stand-up comedy was really aggressive and really male, and that they were mean to each other. So I had no interest in it. But then about a year and a half ago, I left a job. It's my last job with Matt Groening. His last animation project, Disenchantment.
Wait, who's that? I've never heard of him.
Well, hey, it's an age thing. Generation Z doesn't know who he is.
Oh yeah.
And
My kids are watching him now. They're catching up on all the
good for them.
episodes. Yes.
So I left that job, and I had a little bit of money for once, and I thought, what can I do that I wouldn't ordinarily do? And I decided to do, storytelling, like The Moth or something, because I have very, very bad stage fright. So I took a class at UCB and Second City, and at one of the performances, a friend of mine, Joel Marshall, who also does stand-up comedy, came up to me and he said, you should take a class with me in stand-up. And I went, I have no interest, nothing. I don't want to do it. I have stage fright, but telling the story is more like being a journalist. But he convinced me to do it, and fuck it, sorry. It changed my...
you're good. We're rated R. We're rated R, so you're good.
But it totally changed everything. I mean, it just was amazing.
Wow. We're not rated R, but we do cuss.
Yeah.
That's the
George Carlin already covered why, anti-cussing is bullshit a long time ago, so...
Right.
Well, when Dan Bash said on CNN, something about that shit show, about the debate, I said, wow, it's just normalized. Now they're going to start talking about eating ass. I mean, it's just normalized.
I hope not, but I hope not, but
putting in the bib.
When you say that, I have a question for you. When you say that it changed everything, can you tell us a little bit more about like changing everything? Like, did it stop the stage fright? Like, what specifically?
Yeah. Because I mean, I had horrible stage fright. I remember one time I had to give a talk with some former classmates of mine from Columbia about being journalists. Mm-hmm. And we had a table, and apparently my leg was shaking so hard that I was rattling the table. I did get better because when I wrote the book, I had to go on a book tour, and I did Toastmasters, which Dana is a master at. But when I say it changed, it wasn't overnight. Mm-hmm. But I did a show, my first show. I was really sick, and but I actually did well. And the thing that really was good is the first time I bombed, because you're so afraid of that. And it was at the Sycamore Tavern. And I mean, I didn't bomb where people booed, but it was just that.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
It's quiet, yeah.
People making the face like, did you get that?
Or they got it, but that was
it didn't hit them.
Right. So after that, it was liberating, because I was like, oh my God, I can survive that. Mm-hmm. It's like I it wasn't fun, but it didn't kill me. And and I always find when I go to open mics, I get I'll get like dead, no response, and at shows I'll get better response. So it's learning just to go, fuck it, I think I'm funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, very important.
Do you remember your first? I'm sorry. And last one for me for the moment. Do you remember your first? Like when you did that first open mic, do you remember what you were talking about? Like your bits? Do you remember?
I would talk about, I was talking about growing up in Wisconsin and having a human skull in our basement. My problem was I was more of a storyteller than a joke teller. Mm-hmm. And so, people might have been listening, but it wasn't like joke. So yeah.
Set up, punch. So yeah, I got you.
I mean, you had a skull in your basement? Was that someone you knew?
Well, it was not a museum quality skull. It wasn't bleached like, lab specimen. My dad had it, and it was just always there. It was this brown crumbling skull. And my brother told me that my grandfather, who we didn't know, who was dead before we were born, had found it in the Ozark Mountains where he grew up. And he believed it belonged to a dead Native American. And that he had found several bones, took it back to this barn, and then got scared and buried them one by one until all that was left was a skull. And so when I was an adult, I asked my dad, I said, so your father found that skull? He goes, no, my dad was an optometrist. And his father had just wanted us. He didn't feel he got the respect of medical doctors. I don't know where he got this skull, but he found it, and he was going to get all these bones and string it together to have a human anatomy skeleton. Well, he never did it. He just left the skull on the file cabinet. And when he died, my dad didn't know what to do with it. He said, you can't throw it away, like if the garbage man opens it up.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can't bury it. Dog. So he put it in a hat box, and he took it on the train with him to go back to college in Portland. And he said the whole time he was scared to death that somebody was going to ask him what was in the box, or it would tip over and roll down
Right.
Anyway, somehow he got married, moved to Wisconsin, and the skull was in our basement. So
That's funny. I get no respect. I'm going to have a human skull of like that's so funny. That's the tie. Like
Pretty sure by now there's skulls in my basement. Don't be late with my pizza.
What if you had to like 5 comics that you could tell us or share with us that really influenced you or that you really like?
it's interesting because the minute you say tell me 5 anything, my mind is like a white snowfield. But and these change, okay. But right now, Anthony, I always mispronounce his name, Anthony Jeselnik.
Anthony Jeselnik. Oh man, thank you for being someone else who actually likes him. I know he plays for big venues, but I mention him in certain crowds, and they go, "You like that asshole?"
Oh my God, I worship him. He's really brilliant. I saw an interview he did with Colin Quinn at the it's online, but it was at the 92nd Street Y in New York, and Quinn was saying, like when Anthony sets it up, Quinn would say he would try to guess the punchline, and other comics would, because you get to know. He said that Quinn could come up with a punchline, but it was never what Anthony had.
Yeah.
Like he was always the bait and switch, and he's so dark.
Yes, beautifully dark.
So I love him. I love Maria Bamford.
Yeah.
But I could never ever do what she does. I mean, I can't believe she writes that. Like it seems like a riff to me, like she's just saying it. But apparently, she actually writes down. And I love Sarah Silverman. I think she's. In fact, that's who I would say that was the first comic when I was thinking about doing it myself. That's who I looked up to is her, because she, again, it's different from Anthony, but she kind of comes across as an airhead, and then she says the most cutting or weird or she's obviously a genius. So
Yes, she is.
and Stephen Wright.
Yeah. That's one of my big influences in my comedy is Stephen Wright, because and then you write jokes that some people, like half the room goes, "I don't get physics" or something like that.
Yeah. And this will make it 6, but Bill Hicks.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh, I was a little bit disturbed the fact that I love Norm Macdonald also, and I found an interview where he actually called Bill Hicks a hack, and I was like, I think you just don't like his politics, buddy. I was like, I still love Norm Macdonald, but I'm like, Bill Hicks was Bill Hicks, and I would have loved to see Bill Hicks play the Joker before he died.
No way was he a hack. I mean,
not in any way.
He was the opposite of a hack. The hack is when you do something that's unoriginal or that's been. Wow,
Right.
That's an odd comment.
I know, it was weird coming from a guy I really look up to, and it's just funny. I mean, it does show you there's ego everywhere, even the people you really like, and then you also have to learn to forgive. Hey, a guy said something like this, but there's this other side, and it's same with my wife and Anthony Jeselnik. She's walked out of the room when I'm watching his specials, but when I showed her the end of Thoughts and Prayers, she laughed her ass off, and she goes, "Okay, he's smart."
Wow.
Well, I always say I don't want to meet my heroes, because I don't want to, people may be brilliant as artists and assholes as human beings, so I don't need to meet anybody. I used to I was the entertainment editor at a women's magazine, and I met a lot of people, and I don't need to know that you hit your wife or that you like animals in a weird way. I mean, I just
you better never watch wrestling then. Lots of that going on there.
I don't think we have to worry about that, but thank you.
Quick question for you, Jenny. So Betsy Bourne's book was Comic Lives Inside the World of Stand-Up. Yes.
Thank you.
Is that the book?
Yes, it's an interview book where I just think she goes and interviews them. It was like, Bobcat.
Wow.
Yeah, it was all the big ones. Yeah.
And I love Bobcat. You see him in Police Academy, you think he's this one trick pony because he did this thing and he did that stuff. Go watch his stand up and you're like, dude, this guy's hilariously insane, and especially the last one where he dropped the whole act he did from Police Academy. It's what's it called You Don't Look the Same Either, which is one of his favorite openers.
I love him, but I was just going to ask you from the time that, like, I mean, because you weren't into, obviously you were probably a student of comedy before you became a comic, but do you feel like this is you've come in at a good time for women?
Oh shit! Yeah. I think not well. Yeah, because having said that, I was in New York when I remember going out. I did a story on Saturday Night Live, and a lot of those guys, Kevin Nealon, Dennis Miller, a lot of those guys had come from stand up, and I don't remember who told me, but one of them said, stand up is really tough. You have to be tough because the comics were so mean to each other. Now I'm sure that still exists, in leagues outside of mine. But what I find so joyous is how welcoming the comedy community has been. And I don't want to say that anything is good about this pandemic, but the silver lining is this Zoom thing, which I know Ron was saying, what an adjustment it was. And it was. It's also, God, I would never get booked as much as I have if it wasn't for Zoom. Yeah. And the other thing is you're developing a skill set that I've been doing. I did 2 live shows in the last 3 or 4 months, and it's interesting because Zoom, you're more intimate, and so you're working with your face more. Yes. And then when you're on stage, I mean, that may or may not translate. So
it's hard to sneak the pillow on stage without anyone seeing it. Huh?
Well, I actually used to do that routine. I did that routine before Zoom and before the pandemic. It didn't have any relation. I didn't say it was related to COVID. I just said my aunt died and whatever. But I would pantomime it. I just I'd say you're at and my girlfriend we were messing around when she filmed that little segment that you showed with and she said, why don't you grab the pillow and do it at the computer? So
it's a nice touch.
It is. Oh, yeah. And you guys know I know about good props,
right? Although Dana, being a prop comic is an insult. So, but we're changing the view.
Right. But I think, like, and first of all, you just taught me something. I know there was such a thing as a prop comic. As much as I think that like you just talked about Ron Placone and the notion and the reality of adjustments. Like, that's all I think any of us are trying to do. Like being able to then use the pillow on Zoom. Like you said, it's not what you were doing a live show. I don't know what's going to happen with that phone when I go. And even when that bit was first born and you were there, it was 1-800 call a historical figure. There was no phone. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
That was an adjustment I made because I thought it might bring the joke to life, on this platform.
Hey, whatever.
The pillow,
whatever works on your bat belt, whether it's back.
I'm just imagining using the pillow live with an audience and then finding the one audience member to put it over their face.
Kept coming out with a pillow though kind of gives away the gag.
True.
Oh,
true.
Yeah.
That's awesome stuff.